the calls for a ceasefire are outrageous.
Like, just cheering. Call for ceasefire immediately. We've run out of fuel, and I'm sure everyone has seen the photos. We are now at a point where babies no longer have incubators in order to sustain life, which is going to, again, continue to result in mass death. Now, this story, I think, is one of those stories that was so horrifying that it actually shook some of the people who have completely turned off their humanity, some of the people who have completely been unable to, see this for what it is, and are unfortunately still continuing to propagate it. Many of those people marching in DC today to say a ceasefire is ridiculous, which is fucking horrifying. We are failing right now, collectively, as a human species. Palestinians trapped inside Gaza's biggest hospital were digging a mass grave on Tuesday to bury patients who died under the Israeli encirclement, and said no plan was in place to evacuate babies, despite Israel announcing an offer to send portable incubators. Israeli forces have surrounded Gaza. By the way, that is one of the cruelest and most fucked up attempts at PR in terms of saying, well, yes, okay, everyone's horrified, rightly so, and the baby's potentially dying from not having incubators, and yes, that may have been a concept so vile that it was almost used as a precursor for the first invasion of Iraq, when a false testimony was given that turned out to not be true, about how Saddam Hussein's forces were unplugging babies' incubators in order to watch them die. That turned out not to be true, and yet when there's an actual event where babies are dying from no longer having the energy and fuel necessary to run their incubators, suddenly the idea of a ceasefire is being seen as ridiculous by world leaders like Mike Johnson, for example, third in line for the presidency, I might add. Hamas, Gaza's Israeli and Islamic group, denied fighters are present and says 650 patients, around 5,000 and 7,000 other civilians were trapped inside. Doctors Without Borders, which is a very esteemed organization, has said that people who are trying to leave, including patients, are being sniped. They're being shot.
We stand the cause for a...
Again, like, I don't even really have words for this. It's just beyond horrifying. I haven't seen all the clips yet. Let's just quickly look.
Hateful comment after another.
Most hours of the day.
Oh. Oh man. All right.
The loneliness. Mic check. I'll take it back. Most hours of the day, the loneliness is unbearable. But here's the thing. These so-called friends, they were never really our friends. They were never really there for us. They never really saw us for how we deserve to be seen.
It's the guy from Stranger Things, the comedian, and I guess he joins two members of the cast of Stranger Things right now that are openly endorsing the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, which is fucked.
We stand with Israel. We stand. We stand. We stand. We stand.
I mean, this is really, really hurting all the libs right now who are saying, oh, there is, dramatic differences. Of course, there's differences between Republicans and Democrats. It would be foolish to say otherwise. In terms of this particular issue, they seem to be quite united. Quite united.
And we stand. Now, my friends, there are no words for the horror that happened 1 month ago in Israel. The most Jews killed in a single day since the Holocaust. It brings back much darker days. And let us not forget history. History shows that when the world ignored anti-Semitism in the last century, it led to the worst catastrophe in human history: 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust. Let us not forget history. History shows that Israel was almost destroyed in 1967 and in 1973. We cannot, we must not let that happen again. Let us not forget history. History shows that anti-Semitism has been deep in the core of Europe for centuries, and that too many European nations have never been friends of Israel. And history shows that when anti-Semitism rears its ugly head, if it's not dealt with forcefully and directly, it grows into a deadly force.
Most fucked up thing about this is that anti-Semitism is very real and very alive in a lot of the West. In Canada, there's been multiple anti-Semitic attacks. There's been Jewish schools where people have shot at them. There's been the fire bombing or the attempted arsonist of Jewish institutions. Horrifying racist ass shit that should be condemned and called out. Associating all Jewish people with the state of Israel, or trying to say that any criticism of another country, a sovereign country, by definition is anti-Semitism, is treating all Jewish people like a monolith, and trying to associate Jewish people with what Israel is doing right now, like with what everyone is witnessing. It's absolutely horrifying, and not listening, by the way, to Jewish people. Like, did everyone just see all the rabbis, who were protesting the war, who were giving such incredible and brilliant and passionate speeches, who were speaking out against this? Like to see now that in amidst the horror that is taking place, we're at a time now where there is mass graves being dug at hospitals. When children are dying because there's no fuel to power their incubators, when thousands upon thousands of kids have been killed, we're now getting these rallies that have both senior political officials of the Democrats and the Republicans speaking out against the ceasefire.
But my friends, history reminds us also of one thing, that even in its darkest days, the United States.
We go right from Chuck Schumer to Mike Johnson.
Well, it is so good to be with you all. What an extraordinary crowd, and it was organized in just a few days. It's amazing, amazing. There are few issues in Washington that could so easily bring together leaders of both parties in both chambers. But the survival of the state of Israel and her people unites us together, and it unites all Americans, all Americans. Let me be very clear.
It does not. That is 100% false. If you look at the polling right now, the majority of Americans do not support this current military campaign. And there is overwhelming support right now for a ceasefire, as well as the fact that, like, this is going to devastate your chances politically, unless you don't care about winning the election. Again, it's one of those things where Democrats and liberals who are trying to shame anyone speaking out against this with a election a year away, if you are concerned about Donald Trump coming to power, then this should be your focus. You should be like, well, this isn't reflective of the will of the people. Maybe I should be spending some of my time online speaking out against things like genocide and ethnic cleansing, rather than trying to shame people who are speaking out against genocide and ethnic cleansing.
The United States stands unequivocally with our neighbor, our friend, our ally, Israel. They're neighbors in a global sense. That's right. Last week, a bipartisan group of members stood in solidarity on the steps of the House to mourn the loss lives in the October 7th attack and to grieve with the families of Israeli hostages that are still being held in Gaza. We heard heartbreaking and tragic accounts of their kidnappings. And of course, as you know, many of those families haven't received an update on their well-being since that day. As a parent,
by the way, this guy is a religious extremist. You should be ashamed to be on the same podium as him, let alone standing shoulder to shoulder. Like, the amount of stuff that has come out that his wife was running a fucking a website that compared having consensual sex between adults to bestiality, that equated them. Like, these people are freaks. He is a religious zealot. He has, like, he and his son monitor each other's porn content through an app that tracks every single thing and link that you look at on your electronic devices, and then sends your other person links to those or photos to those. It's called Covenant Eyes. Like, these are very, very dangerous individuals, and like, honestly, anyone who's guided as a moral compass exclusively by, well, yes, this is about you know, the word of God and all that kind of stuff, and that's how we should be conducting ourselves in 2023. He is a horrifying monster, and like, it's eroding all of the ability for you know, Democrats or progressives to be able to say, well, yes, we have to stop fascism. Meanwhile, before we get to that, that's a year away, you know, to stop the Donald Trump fascism that's coming in, we're going to support an extreme far-right government that is currently committing war crime after war crime after war crime after war crime. And we're going to hold rallies supporting, again, that extreme far-right government that is doing war crime after war crime after war crime.
myself, I can begin to comprehend
Oh, they do conversion therapy too. Of course they do.
their despair. All of us feel that way. This morning we watched the horrific film that was produced by Hamas from their own cameras as they committed the assault. It's unspeakable. The auditorium was full of Republicans and Democrats in the House, and they wept as we watched the film together. Most couldn't sit through it. These Israeli hostages were kidnapped in their homes by barbaric Hamas terrorists for simply being Jewish and living in Israel. As Prime Minister Netanyahu says so well, this is a fight between good and evil, between light and darkness, between civilization and...
He's repeating the same talking points, the same dehumanizing talking points, the same ones that multiple people, rightly so, were criticizing Israeli officials for using. You know, one of the official accounts tweeted out that this is a battle between darkness and light, between civilization and the law of the jungle. The law of the jungle was the fucking line that was used. Like, it could not be more fucking clear. And right now we're coming at a time, by the way, I should add, that again, you are seeing mainstream accounts and top officials, Israeli top officials, who are talking about how the West and Western countries need to start taking in a vast amount of Palestinian refugees, as in, this is the next step. We understand that there are millions of people there, so we're going to need a lot of people to take in, a lot of people to clear these areas out. And by the way, I'm going to say multiple things can be true at once. Yes, absolutely. Fucking Canada, America, all these countries should be taking in any and all refugees that are seeking asylum. In the same way, we opened our doors for Ukrainian refugees. Like, there was a program that was put in place where you immediately can have at least a minimum of a 2-year visa in Canada. You can come over if you are Ukrainian. You know, kind of a no questions asked open border policy, which for Canada, which has an incredibly restrictive immigration. I know a lot of people think of Canada as progressive. Ask any person who has married a Canadian and tried to immigrate here how complex that process can be. It is not an open borders country by any means, and if people try to tell you that it is some progressive open borders country, they are lying to you. It is incredibly difficult to immigrate to Canada. But that being said, there was a policy where, yes, we are going to welcome any Ukrainian trying to flee, again, the illegal occupation of Ukraine by Russia. Why wouldn't we do the exact same thing? What would the difference be between the two groups here? This is another group of people who are fleeing the illegal occupation of their land by another force.
Barbarism. The calls for a ceasefire are outrageous.
Like, just cheering. More than 11,000 Palestinians, 2/3 of them women and children, have been killed since the war began. This is what their homes look like. Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed more than a dozen people and destroyed the main hospital's cardiac ward, Gaza officials say, as fighting continues in the besieged strip for the 37th consecutive day. At least 13 people were killed in the Israeli airstrike in the home of Han Yunis, Gaza officials report on Sunday. Israeli forces continue their siege around Gaza's largest hospital, Al-Shifa, where health officials said thousands of staff, patients, and displaced people remain trapped with no electricity and dwindling supplies. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Health in Gaza, Ashraf Al-Qudra, told the Al Jazeera that Al-Shifa hospital is completely out of service, cannot provide any treatment even to patients inside the facility due to the constant Israeli attacks. Israeli bombings have targeted the vicinity, external surroundings, as well as one walking inside the courtyard between its various buildings and those wanting to reach the gate of the complex. We have deaths in the nursery after the life support machine stopped working inside the section, and includes 37 other children who are now on the verge of death. He added there are 5 deaths amongst the wounded as the medical teams were unable to perform surgical operations on them due to the power outage and lack of fuel. More than 11,000 Palestinians, 2/3 of them women and children, have been killed since the war began, according to the health ministry in Gaza. About 2,700 people have been reported missing and are thought to be trapped or dead inside rubble. A woman reacts as people stand amid the rubble of a destroyed building.
Jerusalem is the city of God. Jerusalem is the shoreline of eternity. Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel, today and forever.
Like, if you're worried about, religious extremists trying to push ideology on children, look no further.
There is only one nation whose flag will fly over the ancient walls of the sacred city of Jerusalem. That nation is Israel, now and forever.
So if you're wondering who this guy is, this is John Hagee. Or Hagee? John Hagee? Yeah. He's a racist. He's a pretty extreme racist, yes, and who's been criticized heavily in the past for his deeply anti-Semitic remarks. Yeah, that guy. But I guess none of that matters anymore, right? Doesn't matter? So, he apparently blamed the Jews for the Holocaust and said that God sent Hitler to create Israel. He claimed God sent Hitler to create Israel, and on Tuesday he's prominently featured in one of the country's biggest pro-Israeli demonstrations since the conflict began October 7th. John Hagee, a mainstay in right-wing politics for decades, is reportedly invited to speak. He did speak, yep. With tens of thousands of people. The staunchly pro-Israel evangelical pastor is the leader of America's most prominent Christian Zionist organization, the Christians United for Israel, and has used that to influence the lobby of the U.S. government on a variety of issues, including Trump's controversial choice to move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. God sent Adolf Hitler to help Jews reach the Promised Land, the pastor claimed in a 1999 sermon. He apologized a decade later, saying, "I grappled with the vexing question of why a loving God would allow evil of the Holocaust to occur. I regret it if my Jewish friends felt any pain as a result." After Hurricane Katrina killed 2,000 people, he blamed it on gays. Of course. There was to be a homosexual parade there on Monday that the Katrina came. I believe that the Hurricane Katrina was, in fact, a judgment of God against the city of New Orleans. He later semi-apologized, saying, "Neither I nor any other person can know the mind of God." Well, you seem to try to say that quite a bit. He later called America the new Sodom and Gomorrah after gay marriage was legalized. These statements highlight the irony of the pro-Israel movement aligning with anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric and figures, while still uplifting the narrative that Israel is the only LGBTQ+ safe haven in the Middle East. And I'm sure we've all seen that horrifying photo going around of a destroyed Gaza. It's basically trying to rainbow wash colonization, which, great, fucking keep trying to use LGBTQ+ people to justify horrifying atrocities and war crimes. The first ever pride flag raised in Gaza. He is a member of the LGBTQ+ community. He can't get married in Israel, but he still wanted to send a message of hope to the people of Gaza living under Hamas brutality. The people are dead and the homes are destroyed in the background. No one's going to be able to get any message of love. You can't really get messages when you're suffocating and inhaling concrete under fucking piles and piles of rubble. A statement have earned him condemnation and distancing from characters like John McCain and Sarah Palin, but not from the organizers of the March for Israel, the Jewish Federation, who historically expressed support for LGBTQ plus rights. If you are letting an out and proud anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic bigot speak at your rally, something is fundamentally wrong with your cause. And if there is absolutely no criticism of having an individual like that, again, speaking at the rally, getting thousands upon thousands of people to cheer after, you know, fucking Mike Johnson, yet another horrifying anti-LGBTQ plus bigot. These people are not on the side of queers. These people hate and want to eradicate them. And yet, you know, not only will individuals say, oh, by the way, this is a little bit about LGBTQ plus rights. Just want to let you know, they're pretty bad in Palestine. You know, they're pretty bad. I was like, yeah, you know what else is pretty bad there? Trying to survive, get water. Finding water is pretty bad in the best of times in the Gaza Strip. Apparently 93% of the water isn't potable. That's at the best of times, so that sounds like a challenge as well. Not surprisingly, he's upset his fair share of Israelis and a member of the Jewish diaspora for his comments on Hitler and the Holocaust, his writing that the Antichrist is a half-Jewish homosexual, and his promotion of anti-Semitic theories about Jewish bankers controlling the Federal Reserve haven't gone well either. This is the goddamn face of anti-Semitism. This is a fucking racist asshole who spreads conspiracy theories about Jewish people. Like, holy fuck. And this is one of the speakers? How disconnected do you have to be to, like, stand on front of a podium from Chuck Schumer to Mike Johnson saying that, like, anti-Semitism is alive and well, and everyone who's criticizing the government of Israel is spreading anti-Semitic hate, but no more. We're no longer allowing that to be tolerated, all this kind of stuff. And here's our next speaker, a fucking guy who compares fucking, or said that, you know, the Jewish people brought on the Holocaust upon themselves, and that was a divine thing by God to create Israel. That sounds like a pretty fucked up dude who shouldn't be given a microphone, let alone a voice in this discussion.
Here, and millions of other Christians were not here during the Holocaust, but we're here now. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish people. We stand until those 240 hostages are returned to their homes.
Then stop bombing them, you fucking disgusting ass anti-Semite. How do you have a raging, prominent anti-Semitic fucking bigot at the march against anti-Semitic? This photo! this fucking picture! It's like... Make it make sense. Do you enjoy the Serfs, but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Laminia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.